The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. The Judeans disputed among themselves, saying, "How can this man give us his flesh to eat?" So Jesus said to them, "Very truly I tell you, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in you. Those who eat my flesh and drink my blood have eternal life, and I will raise them up on the last day. For my flesh is true food, and my blood is true drink. Those who eat my flesh and drink my blood abide in me, and I in them. Just as the living Father sent me, and I live because of the Father, so whoever eats me will live because of me. This is the bread that came down from heaven, not like that which your ancestors ate, and they died. But the one who eats this bread will live forever." Jesus said this while teaching in a synagogue in Capernaum. The Gospel inspired by God. I think it may have been Maggie Thatcher who said famously, "A week is a long time in politics." Was it she? Yeah. A week is a long time in politics. Yeah. So you can be way ahead in the polls for months and months and months and months and months, and then suddenly a secret is revealed, or you say something really dumb in an interview, and boom, your entire campaign implodes. This is precisely what happened to Jesus today. The background story, this is from John chapter 6, and last week we were reading from the earlier part of this chapter, in which he's riding the crest of the wave. He's in the desert with 5,000 people, and he feeds them miraculously with 5 loaves and 2 fishes. And they try to grab him by force, literally. They want to frog march him back to Jerusalem, and they want to make him king. And he has to fly off into the mountain on his own, escape the crowd. This is less than a week later, and the end of the story, we didn't read it today, was they're so disgusted by what he's saying right now, we are told they left him and they walked no more with him. And he's reduced. There's 12 guys standing around him. The 5,000 people have melted. They're totally disgusted by what he just said, and they're gone. And Jesus is totally shocked by the reaction. They just go. And finally, there's just the 12 apostles left. And Jesus is so disheartened. He turns to them and says, "Are you guys going to go as well?" And Peter, in fairness, Peter saved the day. I wonder what would have happened if the 12 had said as well, "Well, you know what? You pushed it too hard. That's ridiculous kind of stuff." And they melted off and went back to their boats as well. Would there have been a Jesus movement? Would that have been the end? Would there ever have been a church called the Christian Church? And would that have been the end? And nobody would have ever heard of Jesus from Nazareth. But somehow Peter saved the day. And Peter says, "Where are we going to go to? We have come to believe that you're the Messiah, the Son of God." And so Jesus decided, okay, I'm going to hang in there and try again. Now, when you look at the background story to this, why are they so disgusted? He's made 3 significant errors in John chapter 6 when you begin to examine it. The first one is, he says, when he was going to feed the people, they said to him, "Are you greater than our father Abraham?" And Jesus says, "Abraham longed to see my day. He saw it and was glad." And the crowd says, "Dude, you're not even 50 years of age. And you saw Abraham?" Abraham lived 1,850 years before Jesus. So that's the first mistake. And Jesus says famously, "Before Abraham came to be, I am." He didn't say before Abraham came to be, I was. He said before Abraham came to be, I am. So that's the first mistake he makes, first big shock. And the second one, he says, "Your fathers ate manna in the desert." There's something greater than Moses here. So now he's claiming he's older than Abraham and he's greater than Moses. Strike 2. And strike 3 is the ridiculous, disgusting teaching, "Unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you do not have life in you." And if you were paying close attention, just in this short passage, he keeps, really going back to it again and again and again. "I am the bread of life. You have to eat me. My flesh is real food, and my blood is real drink." He keeps going back again and again and again. Now, you have to understand that blood is totally verboten within Judaism. In Judaism, you cannot drink blood. You cannot eat any product that has blood in it. Anything that has to do with blood, which is manufactured, any food stuff that's manufactured from blood, is totally out. And so in actual fact, when the young church is getting established and a whole bunch of non-Jewish people are beginning to join the Jesus movement, and the thinking is, do we have to convert them to Judaism before they can become Christians? And there's a big debate in the Jerusalem church as to whether Gentiles who want to become followers of Jesus first need to become Jewish. And the consensus is, yeah, they need to become Jewish. There's a whole movement called the Judaizers. And they're following Paul when Paul is preaching and insisting that the Gentile converts to Christianity have to convert and become Jews first. There's a big, big debate. And it leads to the very first council of the church, called the Council of Jerusalem, in the year 49 AD. And this is the only one item for debate. Gentiles who want to become followers of Jesus, do they first have to become Jewish? In other words, if they're male, do they have to get circumcised? Do they have to keep all 613 precepts of Torah? And then they can convert to Christianity. And there's a big debate. And finally, the decision is, no, they don't. We'll only demand 4 things of them in order for them to become Christians. The first one is, they must abstain from drinking blood. The second thing is, they cannot eat the meat of strangled animals, because a strangled animal has the blood still inside in it. And the third one is, they cannot eat meat which has been sacrificed to idols, because the blood is poured out to the statue of the idol, and then they would eat the meat. So the first 3 have to do with blood. And the fourth one is, they must abstain from marriage within the forbidden bloodline. So the 4 restrictions, in order for Gentiles to become Christians, all have to do with blood. So the notion of blood is core to Judaism, and total abhorrence of anything to do with blood, because blood is life and blood belongs to God. Only God can drink the blood. And so for Jesus to say today, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no life in you, this was the ultimate turnoff. So this was strike 3. Strike 1 was, he claimed he was older than Abraham. Strike 2, that he was greater than Moses. And strike 3, that in order to kind of be his followers, that they eat his flesh and drink his blood. And he's shocked at the response, and the crowd just melted. 5,000 people disappear. He's down to 12, and he feels like they're going to leave him as well. It could well have been the end of the movement. We may not have been sitting in this church today unless, for the first time, Peter somehow got it right and gave Jesus the confidence to keep going. Now, when it was too late, he realized that he'd pushed it too far. He'd been too much of a shock jock. Now, he was into being a shock jock. That's how he got people's attention. He would say the most ridiculous of things to really startle people alive. Like something like, you know, if your right eye scandalizes you, pluck it out and throw it away from you. Better to enter into heaven with one eye than to, go to hell with 2 eyes. You know, if your right leg brings you into kind of temptation, cut it off. You know, better to go with one leg into heaven than to have 2 legs, in hell. So if we were to take him literally, heaven is people with blind amputees. That's what it would be up there. He would say stuff like, unless, it is harder for a rich person to go to heaven than for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. Now, this is totally shocking to his audience. So again and again, he's a shock jock. And this is what he was doing today with this, no, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood. But when it's too late, he realizes he's pushed the image too far. And he turns to them finally and says, don't you realize that the words I was speaking are spirit and they are life? The flesh means nothing. I wasn't talking about this stuff. I was talking about spirit, I was talking about life. But at that stage, the 5,000 people had gone. He had lost his audience. It did, but it was too late. He was used to saying really, really shocking things and getting engaged in, debates with people. So I presumed he was thinking, okay, if they have an issue with what I'm saying, there's going to be a real good debate. We're going to get a real good discussion going here. But instead of that, it's like there was last straw. Okay, dude, you said a lot of dumb things over the years and we kind of stuck with you. This is the last straw. And so they went. And before he knew what happened, they're gone. And there's only the 12 guys left. And he's going, oh my God, I've really blown it this time. And so now he's going to try to explain to them what he meant, but it's too late. The vast bulk of the crowd have left at that stage. So he just pushed it too far, too fast. And he pushed it too far, too fast in that instance. And the crowd was gone before he had the opportunity. He said, guys, come back. I was only joking. Abraham, Moses, eat his flesh, drink his blood. Kwaheri kwanana. See you later, dude. So that's the first piece. Second piece is there's something about the human spirit, your second question, marriage. evolution has conferred upon us the advantage that those who are constantly alert to the dangers are the people who survive. You know, if you're walking in the bush and out of the corner of your eye you see something with a tail and spots in it, you don't think, gee, that's interesting, I wonder what that could be. No, you're breakfast at that stage. And so people who are hyper alert are the survivors. They get to breed. The rest of us get eaten. Yeah? But unfortunately, we've carried that way beyond. And so we're much more tuned to the problems than we are to the beauty of stuff. We're always looking for the mistakes or the soft underbelly. And so you can be in a relationship with somebody, and you can have years and years and years be really best friends, and then you do one wrong thing, and that destroys everything else. So one bad thing that you've done is going to destroy 100 great things that you guys have done together as friends. So there's something about the human spirit that we totally weight negative stuff differently from how we weight good stuff. And as I say, a single misunderstanding can destroy a friendship that has been built laboriously on hundreds of great experiences that have been generated together. And so you take your case then with Babe Ruth. This was a guy who had entertained, who'd been an extraordinary, baseball player. And now, the people loved to be associated with the winner. And now he's not delivering the goods anymore, And so it's not that they were interested in this guy, they were interested in being winners themselves by association. It's almost like success by osmosis. If we're following the Warriors right now, we all feel good. Who was following the Warriors 10 years ago? Nobody was interested in them. And if they crashed in the NBA, playoffs or whatever, they'd all be booing them again. Because people love to be associated with success. So it's not that they're interested, in a compassionate connection to other human beings who are trying their best, but they want to be winners by association. So I'd say two things there, Margaret. The first one is that, can a leopard change his stripes? Paul was a very, very fanatical character in persecuting the early Jesus movement, and he was just as fanatical in promoting the Jesus movement when he turned. And so, in a sense, he just took the same intensity, but he gave it a different focus. And in actual fact, there's a lot of people believe that Paul was the founder of Christianity, that Jesus had no intention of starting a new religion. What he wanted to do was to reform the spirituality of his time and have that leaven, the world, but not to start a new organization, with the Pope in Rome, and big cathedrals and canon law. But that it was the writings of Paul that actually created the constitution for the Christian church in movement. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that there are 13 letters ascribed to Paul in the New Testament. Of the 27 letters and Gospels that you find in the New Testament, 13 of them traditionally have been ascribed to Paul. But scholars would claim actually that of those 13, he is only responsible for 7 of them, and 6 others he's not. And when you differentiate those 7 from the other 6, what comes out actually is that the misogyny is included in the 6 letters that he probably did not write, like the letter to the Colossians where, wives be subject to your husbands. Or if you have a question in church, keep your mouth shut, don't ask the question, go home and ask your husband at home. So the misogyny is found in the 6 letters, which may not in fact be Pauline at all. So we have to try to differentiate which did he actually write and which did he not. I mean, the whole notion of groupies, groupies attached to anybody, whether it's a basketball team or a movie star or whatever it is, it's like success by osmosis. Somehow if we're associated with somebody who's successful, we're going to be successful as well. The whole notion of advertising is based on this. You get you're trying to sell a car and you get, a woman in a bikini standing beside the car, like this. And you're saying, if I buy that car, I'm going to get her with it, right? That's the kind of notion. If you're associated with the product, somehow you become, the person who's modeling it. And it's also, I think it's the 2 phases of projection. When Jung says, the shadow is 80% gold, what he meant was that it's 80% unrealized potential. So when we're projecting onto our heroes, we're projecting firstly the 80% where we're not developing our own abilities, and they represent, our undeveloped abilities in spades. And then when they fail, we project the 20% of our shadow, of our failures, and we now project that onto them. So we're constantly projecting. When there are heroes, we're projecting what we would like to become if we only got our ass off the couch and started exercising or something. And then when they fail, we project our own shadow material, our own failures, and we make them responsible for that as well. So it's constantly projection, projection, projection. That's the projection again, yeah. There's only one way off a pedestal. Down. Literally. It's a very dangerous place to put anybody, because there's only one way off it, is down. And so putting them on the pedestal is projecting the unrealized potential instead of developing it within myself. It's not to say that everybody's going to be, everybody who holds a baseball bat is going to become a Babe Ruth, but we can all improve our ability in every arena. And so instead of improving ourselves, we project it onto this person. And then they fail, and what's happening is actually they're failing us. Because they were our heroes, they represented what we could possibly become, and now they've fallen, shame on you. Now you've destroyed who I could become by association. Very rarely, because
it's always a pedestal
and then down. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Unless that there's a sense of competition, if there's some kind of perceived equality there. If somebody has gifts that I think I have, I'm going to demonize them then because we're in competition now. But nobody, no kid feels like they're in competition with Steph Curry right now. Yeah, no kid does that, so they're admiring him. But if there was another basketball player who's of the same kind of standard, then you have the demonization happening there because there's a sense of competition and there's a reality to it that I could be better, or he's taken away my glory. I used to be the number one and now he's number one. So you demonize immediately where there's a sense of perceived equality or competition. Yeah.